Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of Ted Saves the World. That's Robert Scanlon, author of The Dreamer Chronicles. And today we're talking about Red Rising by Pierce Brown. We're going to go right into it because we'll probably have a lot to talk about. I've talked about how when we read something that we didn't like, how there's a lot to learn, but this is one that we both really, really enjoyed. And it's probably the longest audiobook. So probably around the longest book. It was a 16-hour audiobook. You said it was 130,000 words?
Around the 130,000 mark, yes. And by the way, this is recommended by Yasmin, and I wouldn't have... I have come across it in some of the YA lists, but I hadn't put it in the queue, and Yasmin recommended it. We put it in the queue. Eventually we've come to it. And Bryan has Cohen us. This book is awesome.
Yes. But, yes, it is. Robertus Scanlonus.
Yes. Now, before people wonder why we're kind of speaking funny, let's give you a legendary summary for Red Rising. Which, when you introduced it, I thought it sounds like Red Rising Hood.
Red Rising Hood.
Episode 39. Take it away, Bryan.
Darrow is a red, the lowest caste in a color-coded society of the future. He works all day in the mine so his descendants can live a better life, or so he thinks. When he learns the Reds have been betrayed by the top-level Golds, Darrow must sacrifice everything to infiltrate the Institute, a proving ground for the Golds. With blood on his hands and in his past, Darrow will do anything to bring down his enemies, even if he has to become one of them to succeed. So, this is a really... It's just, I mean, it's very wow-worthy. We've read a lot of books that borrow elements from, like, Hunger Games and stuff.
Yes.
But this one actually improves upon the original.
I agree.
I've got a good line here.
Go on.
Color me impressed.
Very good.
Yeah. So what are your first thoughts?
Very good. Yeah, look, I think the blurb can make it sound superficial. When I started writing my little blurb, I'm thinking, it just doesn't do it justice. It sounds too trite. Low caste guy takes up the mantle of revolutionary and has to infiltrate. It's the old story. But okay, so it's an old story. This is a wild ride. It's intense. It's an alpha male story. I have to say that, even though there are some really good female characters, some brilliant female characters, you read the whole thing from Darrow's first person present tense point of view, and that's 130,000 words of that. And you've got to be a great author to carry that off. And kudos to Pierce Brown for doing this, because it's a debut novel. It's right in my preferred genre and style. I love sci-fi. I love kick-ass battles in space. Not that a lot of the first book is in space. I went immediately. This is the first in 38 reviews where I've actually gone and read the sequel immediately because I couldn't get enough of it. And the third one in the trilogy, I have to wait until January 2016. So Mark Cooper, this is one for you. You're going to want to get this.
This is a Mark Cooper book for sure.
If you have not already read it.
Shout out.
Yeah. and the way that the whole, it's Shakespearean in its cast of devious characters, and the fact that he uses some Roman notation, but also modern slang. Some of them have kind of Roman names, some of them don't. Some of them have nicknames, some of them don't. The twists are so unexpected that they are worthy of these Politico kind of plot-driven Shakespearean masterpieces. I'm just going to wax lyrical about it. I loved it. It's fantastic. One of the best books I've read in a long time.
We've got intriguing characters from top to bottom. Like you said, the dastardly villains. We got the people whose loyalties might be on one side or the other. We've got our main character who's very conflicted and interesting from beginning to end. The world is like you said, it could sound kind of trite. You've got the golds and you've got the reds and you've got the grays, and it's like, is this going to be Divergent? No, it's not going to be Divergent. It is, you've got, right from the beginning, you've got an entire worldview of one of the groups of the Reds completely turned around. I remember where I was when I heard that twist.
Yes.
I remember yes. I was walking towards the bus because I had to get around. There's the big Pride parade in Chicago when this past weekend when we were recording it. Yes. And I live next to the neighborhood where they have it. So I had to go all the way south, all the way north to get east enough to get around it. So I remember where I was, and when I heard that twist, was getting onto a crowded bus, and I just remember, holy crap, I didn't know where this was going, but now, like, just seeing how wild of a world this truly is beyond what was depicted in the first few chapters, pretty nuts.
Yes,
really
worth pointing out to people actually that the first few chapters, because I went straight in after finishing Legend that we reviewed last week, and Legend was fantastic. And so, you always prepare for a little bit of a crunch in coming out of a book that you really loved, where you just want to read more of that author and coming into something else. And I wasn't sure to start with, only because it was a change of style. And because the first few chapters are sort of the scene setting in the cast of the Reds and their scenario. It's not slow, but it just takes a while to dawn on you. But when it does, holy moly, this is, it's vast. I love it. And it's set on Mars too, so, we're going to have a whole thing about Mars with The Martian coming out later on this year. So, this Red Rising is slated for a movie, and, definitely deserves to be. There's no question about that. And it's interesting what you're talking about the Pride March. I was reading some of the reviews for this, and it's got a 4.5 average over almost 2,000 reviews. So it just goes to show that it's generally well loved. And I read a few of the one-star reviews, and they're kind of, you know what? It didn't have enough gay characters. It's like, okay, if that's your only criticism, then,
that's tough. I mean,
it is.
People are going to. You want a book to be as diverse as possible, of course, and I think that you try your best to fulfill everything without it looking like you're fulfilling check boxes.
Yeah.
So I understand, but what are you going to do?
Well, it's like saying a sci-fi book doesn't have enough romance. I mean, it is what it is. And
it's like you said, it's an alpha male book.
Yeah.
It's very geared towards I think everyone will love it, really, but it's definitely action and war and fighting, and
it's pretty gross in places as well. I mean, it's gory, and there's sexual content, very explicit sexual scenes. Well, not very, very, but explicit enough. There's
a lot where they talk about explicit things that happened off page.
That's right. And
but there isn't too much that happens in. No. There's a little, but a lot of it is like, this guy did this and it was gross.
That's correct. That's right. And so this is for me 16 plus, I reckon.
I agree. 16 plus. Yeah, that's fair.
And but still YA. I mean, the protagonist is 15 when he starts, and he's kind of this he's kind of grown up, battered and bruised in this. He's a hell driver or something, isn't he?
Hell diver.
Hell diver. That's right. He does this thing where he drills. He's in charge of this massive drill that goes down these mines, that mining for helium-3, which is used for terraforming the planet. But of course, little does he know that it's not quite as everything seems. I'm not going to spoil it, but and to keep that action going with the political drama, I honestly, it made me even want to give up as a writer. I know we're still from the reader perspective, but I just think, this is great. This is the book I wish I'd written, and it's lovely to come across something like that.
There's a place for you, Robert. There's a place for you at the table. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I think
Brown doesn't take care of all. He doesn't sit at all the tables.
Oh, come on. But have you seen his author page?
I haven't.
Go and look at it. He's impossibly handsome. He looks like James Bond. I mean, he's just got everything
stock
going.
Photo. Just kidding.
But you're right. Look, this I also said Hunger Games-esque, but the battle in this, which is not all of the book either, and although it's a major plot point of the book, and it's sensational, it's strategic. It's not just hunting each other down, although there is that. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I'm going to wax lyrical because I just loved it.
The way I described it to my wife was, if Hunger Games, if Katniss had to subvert the Capitol by pretending to be a member of the Capitol and just trying to blow it up, and that still is just like such a basic, banal way of putting it, because it's so complex.
It is.
There's a lot to it. There's a lot to this book.
It's got intrigue, and what I love about it is this is why I love books like this, because when you pit characters against one another and their characters are really different, and it ends up being a battle of wits. And what's so different, say, compared to Legend, where Legend last week the reviewed had 2 first-person points of view, so you do get a light shed on the protagonist and the antagonist. And here, you never get to see anything other than through Darrow's eyes. So you experience all his misjudgments and all his summations of who he thinks people are and what they are and how they play out. And they don't always play out that way. So he has to kind of, he gets taken aback from time to time, and then he seriously misjudges people and he can't trust them. So then you end up wondering, who the hell can he trust? And I think the pitting of wits and you get to be Darrow in his head. How am I going to outwit this guy? What's he going to do? And then the way he does it is really nicely surprising, but not just pulled out of thin air. You go, oh yeah, he totally would have thought that, of course. So there's a lot that the author holds back, and then you only find out when the battle scene arises. And there's another author that I liked who does this a lot as well, which in the early days of the Terry Goodkind fantasy books, in the Sword of Truth series, they're a bit like that, and the same for Raymond E. Feist in the other fantasy series, The Magician. There's some really, particularly the ones he co-wrote that are set in the other world. They also have really good action and political intrigue and that kind of battling of wits. So brilliantly done for a debut. It's poof. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it's a wild ride if you're prepared to be in the head of an alpha male for 130,000 words.
Yeah, let's talk about that alpha male for a sec. My first writer's perspective.
Go for it.
A reluctant hero living for his wife's dream in a surgically enhanced body and sent to a school that tests his will. He's super interesting, and his life is interesting. And it's awesome being in his head for 16 hours as the audiobook, or 8 hours on double time.
Yeah.
And I think to keep it that compelling, and I think that's one of the reasons why some first-person present POV books don't work. You've got Divergent, where Triss just isn't interesting enough for you to care for the full book, let alone an entire series. But Darrow, he's conflicted. He's had tragedy. He has love. He has an agenda. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has essentially magical powers, not really, because he doesn't have magical powers, but he has the equivalent of that compared to what he had in the beginning of the book. It's just super interesting. There's so many layers.
It's clever, isn't it? Because the people he's fighting have an entire history. They've been brought up and taught this way, and he hasn't, and he has to learn it all, and he learn it fast before he dies, and so I can't, I'm an outliner when I write, I have to have an outline, not necessarily unbelievably detailed sort of beats, as they call them, but I certainly need to know from point to point where I'm going. And I can't even imagine trying to outline this. And okay, so, your first outline, your first draft doesn't even look like your first outline. So, of course, you're coming to it reading a finished product, and who knows how many edits and how many rewrites that's had to get to that level of complexity. But however way you do it, I mean, let's not take anything away from it. This is complex writing that's really well done. There are lots of, almost every few pages, there are clues as to what's going to happen, but you don't know how that's going to play out, and that's really clever.
Yeah. I want to ask you. Well, I'm asking myself, and then you can chime in as well.
Let's see if you
how do you enhance?
Let's see.
How do you enhance the Hunger Games formula? How do you enhance the Hunger Games formula? You develop all the characters even more. You add several hundred people to the games. You make the people who run the games active in the proceedings. So I think he just really nailed, like, if you're going to borrow, or if it's something's going to feel like something that came previously, you need to up the stakes. And he upped the stakes like crazy. Yeah. Crazy stakes in this book.
That's right. We're talking about the governance of the entire human race.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the stakes that are at stake, and yet, it takes some time for that to become apparent to Darrow. It's slightly spoilering, but it's not going to spoil the action. And what I love about that is that in the midst of all this, you haven't just got a character who has been, as you said, he's been surgically enhanced, he's been reworked with nanobots and all sorts of stuff that you think makes him invincible, but he's not. He's flawed. He doesn't know what he's doing, as you said, and he makes mistakes, and he makes grave misjudgments and grave mistakes, and has to bear the consequences, and then has to think and outwit his way out of the consequences, and work out how to then move forward, because the plan didn't work. So it's not like, here, give Darrow this revolutionary plan and let him go execute it with brilliance. He does not do that. So at times you just think, my God, he's in a corner. How's he going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And I love it when a book does that, and I don't know how he's going to get out, but he does. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and he has an arc. He grows.
He does. And he has to. If he doesn't grow, he's going to die.
Yeah.
So
true. Well, and that's what a great situation to put a character in. Grow or die, and that's pretty intense for the writer as well to have to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I have one more writer thought. This book had epic fight scenes that made me feel like I was there. If you're looking to write better action, I mean, add this to IM number 4 for your action scene school curriculum. Read these 2 books and then write your action scenes, because they're just going to be that much more exciting.
Indeed, I'd agree with you there. Actually, while we're on the Lorien Legacies and I am number 4, I'm finishing. I'm reading the last couple of books in the series at the moment, and they're nowhere near as good as the first. I think because they're ghost written, and they're missing the action scenes. No, that's what made it good. I mean, they're there, but they're just not there in the same way. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. The action scenes here, and then also from a writer's perspective, not only have you got these incredibly well described and well told and exciting action scenes, but you've got a cast of thousands.
And there's so many people in this book.
There's so many people, and they're all good. I mean, they've all got motivations, they've all got agendas, and that's what I really loved. Is you haven't just written a character in because they need to be in, because you want to do a George R.R. Martin. These characters are in because they've got agendas and they're out to do something, and some of them get in Darrow's way. Some of them try to make it look like they're helping him, but they don't. And it's just fascinating. There's devious trickery and clever, very clever.
Excuse me. Yeah.
See there, Brian's tired from even talking about it.
I can't even. I can't even keep up. Do you have any more writer's perspective?
No, let's go to takeaways. So, isn't it funny when you have a really, really good book that our show session time is shorter?
Yeah.
Because
we have less.
No one
we
wants
have
to
less
hear us
smack
go
to
on
talk
and on.
about.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. It's really great. Yes, I've got another point. It's great. Yeah, and
it's great. It's great. Oh, yeah. Hey, Robert, it's great.
I'd love to hear it. You know, we're a couple of boys who love reading boys' books, so it would be interesting from a female perspective as to
read this one.
Yeah, how it comes across, because it is definitely that boy sci-fi.
Well, it was recommended by, you said Yasmin, right?
Yeah. Look, you don't get a 4.5 average over a couple of thousand reviews by not appealing to everybody, and you know, for me, this is up there with with Asimov and with some of those big plays that in a different way. I mean, it's no foundation series in that sense, but it's big.
I've got a takeaway.
Go for it.
If you're going to tell a familiar story, tell it better, go deeper, take it to the next level.
Yes. and who would have thought, this is my second takeaway, who would have thought that yet another Mars-based sci-fi setting would end up being such an original take? And this is despite all those one-star naysayers who all reckon it's all been done before. Oh, do these people ever get excited by a book? Honestly,
seriously,
must be so jaded. Oh yeah, Mars, yawn. Yeah, Romanesque intrigue, yawn. Yeah, Hunger Games, yawn. Yeah, all right. So what? It's well written. Go read it, and shut those one-star naysayers up.
Agreed. Third takeaway. Build your world in a different time and place, and you can make and break all the rules.
Yes, indeed. Like
there's a lot of rules broken.
There's a lot of rules broken. There's some people with Roman names, and there's some people with names like Mustang and Goblin, and
yeah,
it's just so cool. It's very clever. People are going to hate me in this episode. I'm just totally starstruck. I think it's wonderful.
No one could hate you.
All I can say is one of my takeaways that I didn't mention, but it's a bonus takeaway, is I can't wait for the movie or the third book in the trilogy.
Hey. Cool. I've got a prompt. Prompt of the week. What would you do if the purpose of your people was revealed to be a lie? Would you rebel against your powerful overlords or continue to live out your truthful existence, and why?
Oh, God, that's a deep question for so early in the day for me. I'm going to have to ponder that one, but I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah, well, it's very The Matrix in that,
Yes. There you go. Borrowing from yet another.
Crap. All these calories I'm eating aren't just going to my belly. They're feeding the giant worm who rules over us.
It's interesting.
There's no giant worm in Red Rising. I just was trying to come up with a story that was way worse.
Caught me by surprise with that one. Oh, right, the giant worm. The one that rests on the back of the turtle. That one.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that, whilst it is a lie, even the lie is a lie. I mean, I love
even the lie is a lie. There's lies within the lies. You got to go read this book.
Read it. Tell us what you
Mark
thought.
Cooper, pick it up. So you can go answer our prompt of the week on thesplitbookreviews.com. You can also send us more suggestions. Thanks, Yasmin, again for this great suggestion of Red Rising.
Thank you.
You can give us your suggestions at podcast at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can also give us an iTunes review, which will help us in our world domination plans. Robert, what is our book next week?
Our book next week is Shatter Me, which is by Tahira Muffy, and recommended by Alma, who also recommended Graceling. So
very nice.
Yeah, that's what we're up for next week.
I'm very excited. We'll have to get off of the action kick for a little bit. Unless Shatter Me is an action kick book. It didn't sound like one.
I'm not going to say anything. I've already read
it. Okay. You're ahead. He's perpetually ahead of me, guys.
I cannot poison your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No poison. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for Robert Scanlon. I'm Bryan Cohen. We appreciate you listening to The Split. Come back next week for Shatter Me and go to Mars, because there's apparently lots of crazy crap happening up there.
That's right. With the Romans.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robin?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.